back.
We're back.
Guys, welcome to another edition of Close of Business. I'm RC.
And I'm Julianna.
So our stream of consciousness continues, love.
Oh boy, it's been a long day.
Yes, if you are new to Close of Business, the goal here is to let you guys inside of our head in our stream of consciousness. People always ask us how we know what we know. How do we forecast and predict? We've got Watchman Action. We've got We Are the Watchman Weekly, publication number 1, ripped from the headlines, publication number 2. There are years worth of data information and forecasts and predictions that we've done. So people always ask us how. And we say, look, at the close of business every day, we sit down and we talk to each other about what's happening.
Well, you did your research. I did my research. Then we start comparing notes, and then we do the backstory. We mind map everything, and we start to go, oh, this is what we're looking at. So we have very insightful conversations because of it. Because I'm like, there are things that I didn't know, right? And you make color what it is that I'm thinking, and I go, oh, I'm really thinking about this, so differently now because of what you've just said. And then I'll do the same thing for you, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, you start to really see what we're looking at.
And what do you always say?
What?
We should be recording this.
Because so many times, like, okay, so we remember the points, right? But if my degree's in forensics, I say this all the time, right? Forensics is all about storytelling, right? You walk into a crime scene, you see the pieces of the crime scene, and the crime scene tells a story. Well, when we're doing our due diligence, right, there's things that I'm like, okay, this is interesting. I don't understand the full story about it, but I can come back to RC and go, okay, now unpack this for me, so that we really dig in and understanding what's going on. And that's the reason why we started all the publications. We were like, holy moly, we need to be sharing this with other people, because if we're seeing things that are not good or are really good and we should share them anyway, as Watchmen, we need to be telling our brothers and sisters what we're looking at.
100%.
So instead of keeping all that information, because content's king, right? Okay. So if we're having a conversation and it's really good, and all of a sudden, like, all these revelations are happening, I want to share that with you.
Go.
Because they may have understanding that we don't, and they may bring some to the conversation.
That's true.
Which is what's really important.
That is. A couple of housekeeping notes.
Okay.
Yes. For everything on us, everything you need, links to everything, if you go to watchmanaction.org, it's plural, watchmanaction.org, you'll find all the information, all the links that you need there. Also, make sure to read, share, and subscribe to wearethewatchman.org and sherlockexposes.com. And if you're watching this on social media, please like it and share it and comment on it. Share it with as many people as you can. If you like it, it lets the algorithms know that we're something that needs to be shared, and we can work our way up. That's super important, especially if you're on YouTube or Twitter. We need your help there. So make sure to like it, share it, tell 10 friends, spread it far and wide. Leave comments within the content. It shows that there's activity. All of these things, guys, help us immensely. Also, you'll see our sponsors running along the bottom of the screen. The newest one we want to point out to you is the goldbackstore.com. So if you don't know about Goldbacks, our friend Jeremy, the CEO of Goldback, and his team have basically turned gold into money. In the world of parallel economies, when things go sideways, you want to have a way to transact. And what do people understand? Fungibility.
That's right. What does fungibility mean?
That means that it can be used in fractional pieces.
So it makes gold usable.
Usable, basically money. It's a great way to do it. So if you go to thegoldback.com, you can actually buy Goldback, and we'll give you a free half one, by the way. You can just fill out the form when you get there. All the purchases that are made, all the proceeds, 100%, go back into Watchman Action, right? So this is a great way for you to support the Watchman Action Ministry and all the work that we're doing. We take 100% of that money from Goldback, and it helps to move things forward. So please, if you watchmanaction.org, you'll see the information on that. Please support it. Okay, I think all of those things are out of the way.
So, my grandson's calling me. I know him. Everybody who knows me sees all the pictures of him. He's calling me. It's so funny because I was just talking about him, and now his mom's calling me, going, "Oh, he wants to talk to you." All right, we'll get back to it. We'll get back to it.
Slow news day.
That's a lie. Like, seriously?
That every day. It's slow news day.
So it's a slow news day, and RC and I are okay. So behind the scenes, we need to be talking about behind the scenes.
Yes.
Behind the scenes.
Hashtag BTS.
So our day started with being on Ann Vandersteel's podcast.
Yeah, we were on with Ann Vandersteel. today for half hour. I mean, Ann's great. You know, she
Yeah.
was one of the first people that supported Rip from the Headlines very early on. She had us on to talk about what was happening with the SEC trying to pick winners and losers in crypto. That video is legendary. Yeah, it's gone a long way. So Ann had us on today. We talked a lot about what happened with Trump's speech
Right.
last night. And we also talked about our Watchman Action training that's coming up in Venice. So that's the Sarasota area. Southwest Florida. We're putting you on notice right now. This Friday night from 6 to 8:30 at We the People Health and Wellness, we are doing a Watchman Action training. $25. It includes a workbook and dinner.
And
You
dinner.
can't beat that deal.
Yep.
Inside of 2 hours, we're going to have you ready to go on the issue that matters to you most. Doesn't matter what it is. Come in. We'll get you trained up and ready to go. We want to see you this Friday night. For details, go to watchmanaction.org. You can register there. $25.
Right.
I mean, how do
you can't beat
you
that.
can't beat that.
I want everybody to know that we've got a whole team of people that's going up to Tallahassee next week. So we're training them on Friday. So if anybody's going up to Tallahassee and you want to know fellow people that are going up next week,
it's a great way to
Yeah.
aggregate. If you've never been
Yeah.
or you've never met folks, this is a great way for you to get out there and do it. And you're going to be prepared for Tallahassee next week if that's on your mission list. So we're looking forward to that too.
awesome.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Dot. Okay. Cover those.
And then we got all that prepped. So that was, after the Ann Vanderstill, we had to do all that work with the cutting and the videos and stuff like that. Then we did Culture Crossroads at 3:00.
Right. Our show with Andrew Southwick that we co-host on the Beck TV network, Culture Crossroads. Boy, it was spicy today. Yeah. I mean, he had his own commentary.
It was
on
exciting.
a bunch of things, right? And the demonic possession of some that are in Congress. You know what, though? This day started super early today.
Super.
I was up at 3:30 this morning.
So was I.
Yeah. It said, wow.
Father always wakes his children up when he needs them to be like doing something. I was like, all right. He was like, start reading. So I started reading because Amani and I are going to be interviewing Elizabeth. And we had seen her at Center Right. So, I got up this morning at the crack of dawn wanting to, read a book and dig in so that I had all the questions that I need prepared and whatnot. But she's basically coming to America going, you guys need to be weary of what's going on.
Yeah.
Right. Because warning, because what's happening in Europe is coming to America and we're watching what's happening in Europe, all the uprise and whatnot. So.
Yeah. And, she's a powerful speaker and her insight on what's happening in the U.S. from an outsider's perspective. I can't wait for that interview.
That's going to be
awesome. Gonna kill it, man. I mean, that's great. Yeah. Wow. This day was full.
Yeah. And then we did a couple of miscellaneous, recordings that we needed to do. So today was just recording. Okay. So Wednesdays are supposed to be recording days. I didn't expect it to be like this, like, oh my gosh. It was like, it was worth it though, huh?
It was. So you guys, I mean, we obviously run a business. Sherlock is our research and behavioral marketing business. So spent the early morning after exercise talking to potential clients. And you know what's interesting right now? People are looking for ways to do things, and they are super interested in people who are interested in whatever they have, but they don't know how to get to them. And that's actually a problem we solve, by the way. Most people, we don't get a chance to talk about Sherlock as a business, right? Our goal is to provide you the insight on whoever you want to reach, the best way to reach them, and then give you all the tools and all the stuff that you need in order to make that happen. And that's how the morning was spent this morning before we jumped on with Ann. Behind the scenes.
Okay. So there was some stuff that was going on that I was not aware of. So you wanted to bring up a couple of things you wanted to talk about.
Yes. Let's pull up the Sherlock big board, shall we? Let's do this. Let's go and add that to the stage, and I'll make that bigger so we can see. So something that we've been talking about, and this is actually the headline for tonight's edition of Close of Business, is the unrealized losses by big banks. This is so bad that on election night in 2022, we were in Atlanta doing investigative work on the Herschel Walker election run for Senate. We got word that the Bank for International Settlements, this is the central bank of central banks, okay? You would think they'd know where the money is. They put out a report that said $81 billion or something like that was missing off of balance sheets around the world. They had no idea where it was. And the only way to solve that problem would be with a central bank digital currency. So you may be asking, how is it that someone can lose stuff off a balance sheet? Or worse yet, because we'd also been talking about this issue, that banks are carrying a ton of unrealized losses. So bad bets. They're basically gambling with your money. It's like sending somebody to the casino with a bag of cocaine and a stack of money that's not theirs, it's yours. Okay. So they make bad bets and they have all these unrealized losses because, according to Congress, banks don't have to report their short positions. A short position is something that you bet against. You're betting on it to go down. Banks don't have to report their short positions to you because if they did, all the major banks would be insolvent overnight. Okay. And what we said then is that the chickens were going to come home to roost. You can only do this for so long. So this came out today on Twitter. Unrealized losses by U.S. banks soar to nearly $500 billion. Okay. They surged $118 billion last quarter. That's 6 to 7 times worse than the great financial crisis, which really wasn't.
Do you think this correlates to why the Deutsche Bank was saying what they were saying yesterday?
Yeah, the big banks are out of ramp. And it was interesting. Jamie Dimon, who's the CEO of JP Morgan, made a comment about the fact that he thought Bitcoin was a scam. And I lovingly says the scammer who's got just probably, I think JP Morgan has about a fourth of all the unrealized losses sitting on their books.
So what I now understand is that when the government does something that's good, they hold on to it, they privatize it, they keep it for themselves. And when it doesn't go good, they put it on our balance sheet.
So that is Julianna, that may be the best basic analogy I've ever heard. Right? It's almost like they're one of those slimy Shylockers that loans money and just doesn't write whatever. Is that they'll do that to you. But this is what we talk about with retail investors. Retail investors are average Joes like you. Okay. We say, look, if you're in the markets, the public markets that are safe, you are getting the worst end of the worst deal at the worst time. Because all of the risk that it takes to get there, everybody that was going to make big money on that thing already made it. And then they dumped it off on you and said it was a great deal. Well, the reason you're paying more for it is because there are lawyers and accountants and everything like that to get it public so they can go through all the rigmarole to tell you how much money you're going to lose. And they're all legal so that if you decide to sue, there's nothing to sue. Okay. This is how the game is.
So in other words, they bleed everything dry and then they create a propaganda campaign around how awesome this stock is. They get this big hype going. They get everybody to, invest in it and, and then we're left with the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's good.
I mean, this chart, right. But see, your picture's worth 1,000 words, right?
Right.
If you look at this chart, right. So the great financial crisis was in 2008, right? So that's right here. So that was 2008. This is right now.
So does this push Trump to want to reevaluate gold?
It would fit with the logic because if President Trump was to revalue gold, a lot of this goes away. Now, and in that happening, a bunch of people get wiped out, right? But if you're holding on to gold, you're going to make out like a bandit because wealth is made in the dips, not at the highs. Most people don't realize that. They chase a high like a drug addict, and then they lose and they wonder why they keep losing because that's not where money's made. That's why Warren Buffett is sitting on so much cash right now. He's waiting for things to go sideways so he can buy up stuff at a bargain. Sorry,
wow.
not sorry.
Propaganda works, doesn't it?
Listen,
it's nothing but how they form the story, right? I'm going to go through with, We're the Watchmen for Saturday over, Trump's speech yesterday. It's kind of like one of those. So if you want to deep dive into that, I do the deep dive. And it's just like, what aren't you saying? What are you implying? Who are the players? What's the end game? Like, people are so busy like, oh, he said X, Y, and Z. Okay, so there's more to what he just said. Because there's what he didn't say.
Right.
There's what he implied. There's what you should be, saying. I'm going to imply that you were thinking that.
And you know what? There's been a lot of implying this week because it started on Sunday when Trump announced the strategic crypto reserve and what that meant.
So you had called me and were like, okay, so he came out and was talking about XRP and a couple of others, but he all centralized
Mhm.
currencies, cryptocurrencies, but did not talk about the decentralized. Am I correct in that?
He didn't talk about Bitcoin until the next one. So he made this post on Truth Social on Sunday, basically saying we're going to do a crypto strategic reserve. It's going to have XRP and ADA, which is Cardano, and one other, and
All
so
centralized.
Solana, all centralized. And then somebody apparently got in his ear because another post came that said, "Oh, and Bitcoin and Ethereum too. I love them, and they're going to be a part of it too." I heard something interesting today in describing the challenge with XRP
So,
and centralized tokens or
okay.
cryptos. It's this. In those situations, Ripple, who has created XRP, has no fiduciary responsibility to you for anything to be there once they sell it to you. Now, you're probably gonna have to rewind this part and listen to it again, but I'll say it for the sake of this. The logic that was given, and this makes total sense. XRP has no fiduciary responsibility to you once they sell it to you. So if you think about the logic of a pump and dump, this is why these things are dangerous. Because this is what's happening with meme coins, right? If you bought Trump coin and then Melania coin, if you didn't know when to get in and get out, you lost your shirt. And if you think, oh, well, Jesus is my savior and Trump's my president, you're going to keep losing money every time something new comes out because you're going to keep falling for the same sucker bet. George Carlin did the comedy skit years ago. It's a big club and you ain't in it.
There it
Right.
is.
So you have to understand that going in, but also understand that CJ Constantinos, our episode with him on the Watchman Brief, you have to watch. He gives a tutorial on the difference between Bitcoin and these other centralized cryptos and the dangers of centralized cryptos and how people create them. They create as many as they want, and their goal being to make as much money as possible and leave somebody else holding the bag that ain't them.
Oh,
If you're not an insider and you're not early in these things,
yep.
ain't nothing happening. You get in late, forget about it.
All right. Is there anything else that you would like to cover?
No, ma'am.
I've been kind of out of the loop. So outside of what happened yesterday, and I re-listened to everything, and I wanted to make sure that I understood, and I took copious notes. And
look, that's let me just pull it back up just for a second. So this is a story that people need to be paying attention to. We have said this for the last 2+ years. You need to be watching what the banks are doing. Silicon Valley Bank almost crashed the entire world economy. We were 11 hours from a complete economic implosion until the US government created a backstop out of thin air in order to save it because they had no buyers for the toxic debt of Silicon Valley Bank. That's how close we were. This shouldn't surprise you. But if you're trusting that these banks or even President Trump is going to stop you from being smacked in the face, you're in for a nasty surprise. So there you go.
so I would like to talk a little bit about how we were helping Daniel Diaz of the Sound Money Act go up to Tallahassee and what it took to run around and what it looked like. And
Okay.
so, first of all, it was a clown show. So it was one of those, well, this person won't support me because I didn't support them. So, I'm not going to get their backing. And I'm like, is this really how politics happens behind closed doors?
Yes.
Like, it's a tit for tat. You do this favor and then I'll do that favor for you. And I'm like, what happened to y'all representing our interests and what it is that we want to have happen?
You don't have enough zeros behind your contribution.
So I want to unpack that maybe because first of all, the big banks came in and said, we don't want to have a gold backed currency. So for those of you that don't know, each state can be allowed to have their own gold backed currency for the state, which is what we should have, period, end of story. We should have parallel economies. Our currency should be backed by gold, end of story, right? So big banks obviously came against us. And then when Daniel afterwards was like, okay, so now I need to break everything up into different sections. And here are the booties that I need to kiss. And this is how much money I need to come up with for these representatives to give the Sound Money Act of to listen to what's happening. Like, why is it that we've got representatives that are going, hey, Daniel, this is what's required for me to be able to take consideration for what it is that you want to do?
So you're asking why that's happening?
Yes.
That's politics.
That's wrong.
Oh, it's wrong.
That's
Absolutely,
wrong.
it's wrong. But this is politics
That's
today.
wrong. That's wrong. Because if I, Juliana, an average citizen, goes around and petitions people and say, hey, people, would you like to have, and I go to my representatives and I say, I really want to, and they say, you know what? You got to put a big fitty on the table, for me to be able to look at what it is that you want.
I mean, here's what's sad. That part is sad enough, but there are times that you have to pay some people to just stay out of your way.
Money should not be part of this equation. Big money should not be involved in this at all. The fact that they've got a seat at the table and the will of the money is being done, not the will of the people. We're talking about, the demonic stuff and, what it looks like within our government. Bring money into it.
But and this has been a symptom of politics since George Washington left office, right? And he warned us. He said, look, when you get into political parties or factions, inevitably it's going to lead to destruction. And ever since then, money has equated to power and movement. I mean, politicians were being bought. William McKinley was purchased as president by Morgan and Rockefeller, right? Along with Vanderbilt. Right. There's a great documentary on the History Channel, The Men That Built America, right? Where they talk about this explicitly, that they financed McKinley to the equivalent of about $250 million today. And they bought themselves a president because they wanted to continue what they were doing as oligarchs and titans, right? And per capita, they were significantly wealthier than the folks of today. I mean, they were worth basically the modern equivalent of trillions of dollars. Okay. It was insane. And so they said, look, we're just going to buy whatever we need. So this has always been around. The problem is, back then, people were not as informed. Information didn't travel at the speed of sound. People could mobilize, but not in the same way. But here we are with all the modern conveniences. Interestingly enough, this is still happening. And people say, oh, we need campaign finance reform. You do, but that would also dictate that people follow the rules. And there's always a gray area where you don't have to. What you got to do is get this stuff out in the open, and you got to name some names, right? You got to get down and help people understand. Our job is to call balls and strikes. Our job is to help you understand how the system works. You can pretty quickly conclude, wherever you live in the US, who the power brokers are, who the lobbyists are, and how the money is flowing. And from there, you can pretty much figure out who you need to go have a conversation with or who you need to try to block. Okay. It's obvious at every level, federal, state, local, doesn't matter. That money's flowing all over the place.
Well, even the money that was sent to Ukraine, like
Jeez.
More than half of it was lost. They're like, oh, we don't know where $100 billion went.
It's going to show up in an NGO somewhere, and then a politician who decides they don't want to be in office anymore is going to get a cushy, $750,000 a year job at a nonprofit magically that has all this money to pay them, because that's how this works. That's how your Maxwell Frost in Central Florida, who goes in so broke into Congress that he doesn't have credit to get an apartment in DC and is now worth $1.5 million. How does that happen? Glad you asked. Thanks for asking. Follow the money. Yeah, right.
Anything else?
No, that's it for Close of Business tonight.
Okay, so now we're going to chill, try to eat something, right? And get ready for bed. But as much as I love you, I don't want to talk to you anymore. I'm talked out. I don't know about you.
It has been that type of day.
Holy moly.
Guys, thank you for joining us on Close of Business. For everything, go to watchmanaction.org. Make sure to like and share and subscribe and do all those great things. We'll see you guys soon. Take care.
Bye.